Science fiction, yes. I will probably say a few words about science fiction, but I'm not going to say that artificial intelligence is something which is for the future. No, it is now here, and we have to deal with it. You probably are aware of the fact that I start my presentation with the fairy tale from the Bostrom's book Super Intelligence. It is in your materials. I'm not going to read all of that, but it somehow shows what is the attitude of the data protection authorities towards something which is artificial intelligence. The fairy tale is generally about the sparrows who wants to have an owl to help them. But they actually have no clue about the owls and no clue how to grow up the owl. But they know that the owl may defend them and may help them, and the owl is generally very intelligent. So they send the people out, they send the sparrows out in order to find an egg of the owl and to start the process. But there is one sparrow which is maybe not skeptical, but who just asks, should we know something more about the owls before we start to use them? Should we study it a little bit? So despite the fact that the whole folk starts to look for an owl, there are some sparrows who study how to deal with it. What can be the problems? What can be the things that they have to be aware of? And this is more or less what the data protection authorities do as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. We are absolutely sure that it's around, and the authorities like the European Data Protection Supervisor have to deal with it. European Data Protection Supervisor, as you probably know, is the data protection authorities of the EU institutions, bodies and agencies. We do not have any hierarchical power over other data protection authorities in Europe. We are just the 29th data protection authority in the EU. There are 28 jurisdictions inside the United Europe, and the 29th is the data protection authority which is dealing with Commission, with Council, with all the agencies, bodies and institutions that exist in the Union. And in our strategy, in the point 1 of the strategy, we said that the data protection goes digital. It does not mean that the data goes digital, because data went digital 40 years ago. It means that the protection of the data is not anymore only the legal issue, and it's not the legal issue anymore. It is the legal background is just the background for what we do inside the systems that we are dealing with. And artificial intelligence is a wonderful example of that, because I may say there is nothing new from the legal point of view that we should add to the articles of any law that exists in the European Union or in any other jurisdiction in order to address the problems of artificial intelligence. Theoretically, everything is addressed. The problem is how we actually gonna do it and how we're gonna work with it. Big data is big responsibility. Yes, that's true. And at the same time, artificial intelligence goes after that. As I said, this is not anymore the science fiction. These are not all these precogs, these are not on these Skynets, and not anymore the discussion about the future things. This is something which right now happens, and the data protection authorities start to deal with it. At the 38th International Conference of Data Protection Authorities in Marrakesh in October 2016, we chose the artificial intelligence as the main subject for the data protection authorities to discuss about during the closed session. So without the externals, inside the house, with some specialists in the subject, we started to ask ourselves different questions about artificial intelligence and also about the very practice of it. And one of the questions was, when will we first meet the bot that is discussing with the data protection authority? Is it possible to have the artificial intelligence entity that will try to describe why the organization is accountable? So as a data protection authority, I will ask, are you accountable? Could you show me that you are accountable? And I will get an answer, we are accountable, which is shown by this and that example of this and that data. And I think I talk with the lawyer, probably with the data protection officer of the institution, but I'm actually talking to the artificial intelligence entity that is answering me what is accountability. Isn't it a great question for the AI entity? So should we, as data protection authorities, prepare our own bots to discuss with the bot that we are discussing with? That would be an interesting data protection discussion. The bot from the data protection authority asking the bot in the entity in order to get an answer that can be reproduced, and of course, using the other bots that are used by the other data protection authorities around, we will have the chain of the algorithms that are answering the chains of the algorithms on the other side. Of course, that's schizophrenic. But we have to deal with it as the possible answer, because these are the things which are going on.